Welcome you all to 13th edition of Procurement Excellence on behalf of Ivalua and UBS Forum. We gather every year here to discuss what are the emerging trends for procurement, what are the digital interventions all of you are implementing within your respective organizations to drive procurement agility, the approach to your change management, what kind of innovations you are driving with your supplier base in collaboration. And also we talk a lot about your AI and ML. And, technology is also a very integral part of, the overall efficiencies and effectiveness. So we always discuss the hype versus reality, where we are working with our customers, the adoption levels, the challenges. And the most important thing is, to network. There are a lot of procurement leaders from different industry. So there's a cross-industry learning and sharing your knowledge and make new friends. So with this, let's get started. And so just to set the tone for the day, and this is what we have been hearing from, let's say, your head of procurement or let's say supply chain officers in your large to mid-sized companies. And not much has changed. I think maybe what we talked about last year also. So definitely, on this, you don't see managing cost. That I think has been, I would say, the forte of procurement, and the challenges are becoming more with respect to your inflationary environment. But what's happening is, I think if you see last couple of years, your world is becoming more polarized. If you look at the leadership in different countries and your fears of recession, there is more of a protectionist attitude being taken by different governments. And I think all of you would have read about, during Modi visit to US, and Trump talked about your reciprocal tariffs and all that, So tariff is a big word. And, that adds one more risk, that how do you align your supply chains and, manage your continuity. Regulations, it goes without saying. And a lot of times when we're meeting customers, it is not just about just managing your compliance around taxes, GST, or let's say input tax credit, but depending upon the industry, so let's say if you're talking of chemical industry, how do you comply to your REACH regulations, or if you're from FMCG, complying to your FSI regulations, and then comes your regulations around your, GDPR, or let's say the DPDP Act, as and when it's out and finalized. Risk, we'll talk. I'm sure we hear a lot about the risk from the respective panel members, because of climatic conditions, or maybe, the conflicts which are happening in other parts of the world. And ESG is a very important topic. It's an agenda in the boardroom. And this is not, when it comes to procurement, it gets more complex because of your scope 3 emissions and the amount of data that you have to collect. And it also puts a lot of burden on your supply base also, So let's say if it's a tier 1 automotive supplier working with, let's say, 30 OEMs, providing the same set of data, it also causes the supplier fatigue, So how do we address those kind of challenges and all that? We'll talk about that. Coming to, so that was what we are hearing. And, this is more from, the research that, we did in partnership with Anand. And so if you look at the top 3 priorities, and this is more, I would say, your global survey with a 30% representation from APAC companies, but 85% of that survey base is large manufacturing companies, so which I'm sure you would be able to relate, and so I talked about cost savings, top priority for the CPOs, and becoming more difficult because of fluctuation in the commodity prices, or even for the emerging technologies, if you talk about the transition from, let's say, your conventional sources of energy to renewable sources of energy, the emerging technologies, if you look at the demand, let's say for, your minerals like, I would say your lithium or graphite is going to be 20x, in next 10 years. So how do you work with your supply base to ensure the supply continuity? And other things is, with so much to do, and definitely, as I said, is technology is becoming an integral part. So we will talk about that. It's not just about your internal data, but also that how you get insights from the external world the things on the public media, or let's say your specialized sites that provides you commodity intelligence or risk intelligence on supply base. So how do you integrate with that to build up your insights? This is what, with respect to the priorities and, maybe how the procurement, or maybe how the org structure, or how the realignment of supply chain is happening. And then something interesting to share, we talked about ESG. And, there are organizations, and maybe I would say Europe has taken a lead on the ESG initiatives. And, there is a consortium. So if you look at, companies like your Nestle or PepsiCo, they have formed a consortium where they are working with suppliers, on your recycled plastic that's food grade. The technology is still in infancy, but, that's where, if you look at the game is changing, you are making an alliance with your competitors, trying to help suppliers so that you commercialize this technology at a fast scale. And then that needs some change in the procurement function, right? So if we talk about, let's say, Volvo within procurement, they have innovation department, and they're working on 3 streams like emerging technologies, or let's say your discovery of fossil-free raw material. So the thought process is changing. You need different kind of skills within the procurement to address those challenges. It comes to your, you can't look at your suppliers more as a transactional relationship. Mr. Prasanta is sitting here, and I always remember his word. And whenever I visit them, and in the culture of their organization, they always treat as partners. And there is a strategic thought process how to engage with suppliers and collaborate. So it's a win-win. It's not a zero-sum game, but it's a win-win for both the organization, and becomes more critical because if you look at the supply base is going to be limited, for your all these emerging technologies. And if you look at the kind of buildings, what we're building, and we're talking of, your IoT devices and all that, there is a supply base is very concentrated for your chips and semicons and all that, right? So it drives importance that the relationships that you have to build with your suppliers to drive those synergies and all that. And the other 2 things is, more on, because I talked about your inflation, your volatility, your demand uncertainty, so how you build up your intelligence on your categories to, understand the price trends, and also collaborate with your cross-functional team, let's say finance team, right? Because if you're doing a lot of import, and if you look at the depreciation of Indian currency in last 2 years, how do you hedge those kind of risk, in collaboration with your finance team? And now let's look at the technology, and this is I think this was published I think sometime in Q4 of last calendar year, and it shows that there is a good level of adoption on the transactional processes. Whether it's linked to your let's say your invoice processing, or it's linked to your managing your PR to PO for indirect spend, or let's say the processes we have in ERP for your, I would say, PO processing. But if you look at as we go, the upstream procurement, which is more to do with supplier relationship management or your sourcing and contracting, still the level of adoption is not that where it should be to support your goals and objectives with all increasing responsibilities. And it will be good to hear from different panel members and peers in industry, how they're seeing what's their experience, because what I have seen is still there is a long way to go. How do you build your insights around your direct material and digitize your processes both on upstream and even on the downstream to manage your collaboration on forecast and your schedules. So we'll talk more about that, but we'll just give a gist of that, what's the level of maturity and where organizations seeing results, and our goal where we want to see more in the coming future. And this one more, I think, very interesting topic. So I don't know that whatever we talk about AI, ML, and how much is the hype, and I have my own views. I'm sure that all of you would have your own views, and maybe the practical use cases that you have done, are they really leading to some transformational gains, or they are maybe little incremental productive improvements. So this is more of a survey across industries, and it's mixed. And I'm actually surprised to see that there is a lot of positive momentum on these technologies, and organizations feels that maybe at the click of a button, it will give you a lot of information. But let's discuss it over the day how the things looks like. And so I think this is just to set the context. I think maybe if you look at all the sessions, from industry leaders and the panel discussions, I'm sure would be around the topics of managing your risk, cost, sustainability, cross-functional collaboration, and your impact of technology. So with this, let me kick off the session. And once again, I would like to welcome you all and enjoy the day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for setting up the context and for the opening remarks.